Wasn't kind to you in 1980, though?
No, not at all. I fell off after 4.5 hours at stop corner in the...
Practice for tomorrow's 13th annual Castrol 6 Practice for tomorrow's 13th annual Castrol 6 Hour at Amaroo Park has been held in a combination of heat and torrential downpour. 40 riders will face the starter tomorrow in the last time that we'll see a clash between the giant superbikes, the 1100cc Suzuki Katana and the Honda 1100 RC. And ironically, it will also be the first time that we'll see that clash here at Amaroo Park. A mixture of shipping strikes and poorly framed regulations last year prevented the bikes racing against each other. In production bike racing so far this year, Honda has beaten Suzuki 5 out of 6 major production races, but a closer investigation of the results shows that in the first to third placings in those 6 races, they've scored equally 9 major placings each. So tomorrow is certainly anybody's race. Let's go to Central Commentary and Will Hagan.
The ginger-headed, mustachioed Neville Hiscock, last year's winner, on bike number 1, a Suzuki Katana. One of the bikes that will be battling with the Honda EC, the 1100Rs, which we didn't see in the race last year, but which should make it a memorable one this year.
Partnering defending champion Dave Hiscock on bike 1, Rod Gray is the current South African Formula 1 champion. These bikes must seem rather slow to you.
They are a little slower than the ones back home, but I do ride in the street bike class as well on 1100 RCs, you know.
How do you find the Amaroo Park circuit compared to the South African circuits?
It's very much tighter than the circuits back home, but having come out 2 years back, I found it a lot easier this time, you know.
Amaroo Park wasn't kind to you in 1980, though?
No, not at all. I fell off after 4.5 hours at stop corner in the rain.
And you also had electrical problems?
Yeah, we had electrical problems as well, so we lost about 22 laps.
Are you pleased with the preparation of the bike this time?
Neville is very, very good. I must be honest, I got straight on the bike and it's real good.
Neville has really improved as a rider over the last 12 months. Are you with him on time?
Well, we went out on Wednesday and we ran about half an hour together, and basically we were virtually doing the same time.
Serving, isn't it?
This is one of 8 Honda 1100Rs in this year's Castrol 6 Hour. The bike that won it in 1980 but was absent last year because it was a single-seat machine. Wayne Clark, normally a Grand Prix rider, will be sharing the bike with the 1980 winner, Wayne Gardner.
Wayne Gardner, straight off an aeroplane, is not the way to go production bike racing. Are you feeling all right?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I had a fairly long journey on the way out, but I had a couple of nice bits of sleep and no problem so far.
Have you found the bike as good as you'd hoped?
Yeah, it's very good actually. It's very good. It's good as my bike in England. I've got the same sort of bike. I've been doing a street series in England, and yeah, it seems to be just as good.
You're not necessarily the greatest exponent of production bike racing. You don't prefer them very much.
No, I don't exactly like them the greatest, you know, but I like the 6 Hour because I like to come in. I've won it once before, and I'd sort of like to win it once more. But this is definitely my last time on production bikes this year anyway, and next year I'm sort of going Grand Prix and the World Formula 1 Championship.
What contracts have you signed for 83?
I haven't signed any at the moment, but I've agreed to terms and that with Honda, and I'll be riding 2 500 Hondas next year, the new three-cylinder ones, and the new V4 Formula 1.
Well, you've very much become a superstar of international motorcycling.
Elliot Tocher, Peter McNamara, Gene Mayer, Johan Creek, and Chip Cooper. Don't miss the action in the Mazda Super Challenge, starting 9 o'clock Monday, here on ABC.
13th annual Castrol 6-hour motorcycle production classic about to commence at Amaroo Park, the threat of rain has dramatically increased tension on the grid. There's never been the potential for a faster Castrol 6-hour. The top 8 teams have all practiced under last year's pole qualifying time. The top 3 are equal on a flying 55.8-second lap. Len Willing on a Honda is off pole position. Beside him is Malcolm Campbell on a Suzuki. Then comes international Wayne Gardner on another Honda. It's the showdown for the Honda and Suzuki 1100s this year. It's the first time they've raced together in the Castrol 6-hour, and ironically also it's the last. They've been banned from racing from January the 1st. There's never been more money or time spent on Castrol preparation. The top teams have done more than 2,000 laps each in practice. That's almost 6 times the race distance. This year, the race is on from the start. Even the Le Mans start, when the riders sprint across the track, will be significant in the race result. Let's go now to Will Hagan in central commentary.
A big crowd turning up for this 13th Castrol 6-hour, and a crowd that just might, as the day goes on, get wet, because it's a very threatening sky overhead, which hasn't, as you can see, deterred people from making this, as usually is the case, the biggest attendance at Amaroo Park, cars or bikes, throughout the year. But there's the sky, and there's already been a few drops of rain, but then sunshine has followed that. So that exactly what's going to happen, or when it's going to rain, we just can't tell. That's the way the top 5 riders line up. You can see that the 3 riders on pole all had equal times yesterday. Quite remarkable, an average speed of 125 kilometres an hour. And looking at bike grid position 4, Blanco French, I'm not sure that Alan Blanco will be able to sustain the pace, nor am I sure that in the 6th grid position, Paul Walden. That's actually changed recently. Scott Stevens, the reserve rider for the Matic team, is now taking the place of Paul, who's got an injured shoulder, and he will partner Rick Walden, who did that time yesterday. But below those 10, there are others too who I think early in the race will come to the fore. Taylor and Robbins on a Honda number 10, Hiscock and Gray on a Suzuki number 1. And that's the way the circuit looks from above. That's the bottom part of Amaroo, the link road, at the pit area there, going forward up the hill. And Dennis Neal, you've ridden here, you were second in the race a couple of years ago. This is the fast section of track.
We're getting it into fourth gear. Just past the control tower. Just back to third, some riders put it as you go over the top there. Most of them leave it in fourth and back to third for the Dunlop loop. Quite a tricky part of the circuit. It's a double apex corner. You need to be very, very smooth.
In at the ripple strips, then following the tyre marks out.
Right, you can see actually there on the track where the bikes, most of the bikes have been going.
And then there's secondary apex.
Right, full power on there, and that's the part that catches a lot of riders out. The tyres are probably working their hardest on the whole circuit in that part of the track.
And nowhere to get out of trouble there either.
No, straight into the wall.
This corner, Mazda House.
Very high speed corner, you can make a lot of time there, and that's where the more experienced riders at Amaroo do a lot of their setting up to pass down here into Honda corner.
Which is downhill, the arrival there, and you're looking hard for adhesion, particularly if it's wet.
Right, back to second gear, a lot of acceleration out of there, click at the third on the kink, and then down.
Which becomes another corner virtually, doesn't it?
Right,
at the speed you come out of Honda.
Pretty well on a full length through there.
And then the slowest corner on the circuit.
Back to second gear, the stop corner or Winfield. Once again, works the tyres very hard, full throttle out of there.
And a nasty kick in on the apex.
Right, and most of the riders tell me it's got quite rough in the past year too. So into third gear, along the short straight there, very dangerous part of the circuit here, absolutely no room for error at all. Very close to the fence, within a bike width to the fence, and then on up the track straight again for another lap.
1.946 kilometres around.
The sprinters lined up for the start of the 1982 Castrol 6-hour motorcycle race at Amaroo Park. 30 seconds remaining. A sprint of perhaps 10 metres across the track, and it is significant in the start of the race. Muck this up and you could be very, very slow up the hill, trapped in traffic. 15 seconds to go. Tension rising with these riders, their heartbeat really getting on. 5 seconds. Bill Orme, the managing director of Castrol, with the flag. It's up and they're away in the Castrol 6-hour. Fast start from Neil Shivers, bike 6. But up the hill it's bike 8. The Len Willing bike.
4, Campbell, who did equal pole setting time yesterday. Malcolm Campbell, the Tasmanian's gone into the lead on the Suzuki 1100, number 4. Mattage bike going through there in front of Clark, Wayne Clark riding 2. But this is the man they're chasing, Campbell, being chased immediately by Willing on number 8. He's in second place. Third place then Wayne Clark, looking for a way down on Willing. And he gets through too. But it's still Suzuki leading from Honda second.
That's the first lap down. They have 377 to go.
Third place is Willing, fourth place is Phyllis on the Suzuki number 14. So Rob Phyllis has come through from grid position 8 to be lying fourth. 17 there we saw going through is Radford. Starting the fairway back in 14th grid position.
Standing lap of 69.52 seconds, and that included the sprint across the track.
Still that quartet of 4. Malcolm Campbell on the Suzuki, 8. Willing on the Honda 1100. 4 in front of him though. Sorry, 2 into the lead now, Wayne Clark, and he's really charging. That's Jeff French, the Queenslander, son of John French, the car driver, on number 7 for the Mattage team. Look at the way Wayne Clark's going, the man who broke his leg at Bathurst the Easter before last.
And the first flying lap of Amaroo Park, 57.86. Dennis Neal, that's really flying.
Incredible time, and I'm glad that everyone got off to a safe start, because those first 2 or 3 laps are very, very critical, because your tyres are stone cold. And to do a lap time like that, it just shows you how hard they're at it.
Are they pushing it too hard, do you think, Dennis?
Well, no, I think now they're over the critical part. That first lap when they're stone cold, now they're going to start to generate some heat in them. I think they're all right. I noticed actually Wayne Clark there, who's leading the race, started on brand new tyres, which amazed me. I always wanted to put a few laps on them to scruff them up a bit, but Wayne preferred to start on a brand new set of tyres, and looks like he's doing it really well.
Clark from Malcolm Canada.
Chivers was in 5th place on number 6, but he slipped back 1 behind Hiscock on number 1, who's come up to 5th place. That's the blue leathers there in front of the yellow leathers of Chivers on bike 6 in 6th place. So Neville Hiscock's forging through, and he started from 10th grid position.
Malcolm Campbell's really keen to go with him. He told me before the race that because he's one fuel stop disadvantage to the Hondas, that he figured that he had to lead them in the early stages and set the pace. So.
A 57.68 lap time on that last flying lap, and that's for Wayne Clark on brand new tyres. The sky clearing, quite a deal of blue evident now over the looking north from the circuit. Clark Campbell.
Rob Phyllis has joined them too now.
14, Phyllis is in there on 14, he's in 3rd place. So they come by to their pit signals. Then it's 8. That's Willing. Behind him it's Hiscock.
And Malcolm
Chivers in 1 and 6, and 7 behind them, Jeff French. Being followed by Pete Byers on 5, and Campbell now leading from Clark.
Leading the 750 class is Bob Toomey from Ian Perro. Toomey on a Suzuki, Perro on a Kawasaki.
And 3.21 seconds covers the first 10 riders.
Malcolm actually starting to pull away a little bit there. I'm a little bit surprised that Wayne Clark's going quite this well this early, because he is the number 2 rider in the Mentor team.
But look at number 14, Phyllis, in front of number 8, Willing in 3rd place. And Phyllis and Campbell, both on Suzuki's, obviously wanting to force the pace to try and pick up the time that they need if they're to do an extra pit stop over the Hondas.
Phyllis claimed that in fact he wanted to follow the Hondas for a while and see if he could win from the back, but it's what was his race plan is obviously not what's eventuating for him.
Lap time coming down to 57.21 now. We've been up around 57.8s, down to 6s, and now 2.1.
I think we'll actually see them get into the 56s as this dice develops, because they're confident now that the bikes are doing everything right and they've got some heat in their tyres and they're used to the track again. So I think we'll see some 56 seconds laps soon.
Lovely variation on lines there between those leading riders as they came out of Honda corner, through the kink, and now Winfield, the slow second gear corner, onto the straight round the lake, then Wunderlich corner, onto pit straight, past their pit crews, and then the burst up the hill, all of them chasing Campbell. There's Dennis Neal's forecast of breaking into the 56s, a 56.96 for this man on that Suzuki, Malcolm Campbell. Working the bike beautifully, Phyllis behind him on 14, 8, hounding him, that's Willing. So Willing the best place to the Hondas. 4th place, another Suzuki, Hiscock. 5th place, 2, Clark, another Honda. 6th place, number 5, Pete Byers, another Honda. And then Chivers on a Suzuki number 6, being followed by 7, Jeff French on a Honda. A 56.58. Every lap, 2-3 tenths coming off the times.
Certainly spreading the field. There's almost half a lap now between first and last.
Malcolm Campbell was saying to me yesterday that he's got his bike that well set up and he's that used to riding it the way it is set up now that he can do quite a good string of 56.5s.
What a bit of squeezing going on there between second and third through the kink as Phyllis arguing with 8, Len Willing, and squeezing each other. Honda leading that pair from the Suzuki Katana, and in third in the group is Neville Hiscock. He's last year's winner, number 1. This is hard stuff early in the race. They've only been racing 8 minutes.
This stage of the race, it's hard to remember while you're out there riding that it is a 6-hour race. You treat it more like a 10-lap sprint. You just want to pass that guy in front.
Well, there's 3 guys that are. There's the race leader pulling out quite a handy little margin, particularly if they keep up this argument. Phyllis from Willing in the group there, and behind them Neville Hiscock. Willing the second, but Phyllis will have him back on the inside run to Wunderlich, not quite. And you can see the gap from them back to 5th. The next part of the pack being headed by 5 from 7. That's Pete Byers from Jeff French, both of them Hondas. Oh, beautiful stuff. And Dennis Neal, they're arriving really quickly at that point.
They sure are. That's very beautiful to watch. These guys all really trust each other, and to ride that close at well over 110 miles an hour, you've got to have perfect trust in the guy that's 3 or 4 inches away from you.
Which is the speed through here, through Mazda corner on that sweep. Hard in
4th gear. Back to 2nd for Honda corner. And full throttle on the left. You don't have to worry about serving the tyres on the left-hand side. There's only 2 left-handers in the whole circuit, so you can really give it to them coming out of there.
1.48 seconds the gap from Malcolm Campbell, now back to Len Willing.
Now actually comes the critical part of the 6-hour race. It isn't so much how fast you can lap on a clean circuit, it's when you come up to the traffic. 40 bikes being in the race, the whole time you are lapping slower riders, and it's how well you slip through without being held up.
The gap first to second is 0.84 only now. You can see Campbell's lost ground, getting through the back markers, he pioneering on behalf of the field, is losing time and has lost a valuable half second or more to Willing, who's tending to make a bit of a break behind him from the two that he's keeping company with, which are 14 Phyllis and 1 Neville Hiscock. This man starting to rein in Campbell. Look at the gap, nothing in it now. 1.2, he's pulled it back to. And again, Dennis, just as the riders are starting to explore their way through, the lead riders, it's also something of an awakening for the tail enders who are being picked up, because it's the first time anybody's coming by them.
That's right, and they'd be pretty amazed to be being lapped in 7 or 8 laps into the race, so it will be harder for Malcolm to actually give them the fright, and then they'll be aware of that their faster guys are coming through.
Order changed, where you can see now Neville Hiscock's in front of Rob Phillis, bikes 1 and 14. Both of them Suzuki's, chasing this big Honda with Willing tucked down behind the fairing. Carbon fibre, that fairing, and worth $1,300. And the race leader, Suzuki. So it's Suzuki, Honda, Suzuki 3rd and 4th.
See how smooth they are. That's the whole secret to this race, trying to be as smooth as possible and be as easy on the motorbike and your tyres as you can.
Out of Honda corner again, through the kink and down to Winfield, the stop corner. And there's the man they're after, and Willing really is after him. This is a Suzuki-Honda argument.
In a situation like this, it always is easier for the second rider because he's got someone to gauge himself against. Now, the lead rider probably wouldn't be getting lap boards at this stage, so he'd be just riding too much and feeling his way as he goes around.
Well, look at Willing's difficulty here. Whole pile of riders to find his way through, and with not Willing, Campbell, and with Willing hot on his heels. That's a real clump, which means, of course, that they're concentrating on each other rather than on being lapped, as Willing goes down inside Neary on number 39, a Suzuki 750, or Campbell at least. 20 that he's with there has been changed to a Suzuki 750, and that's John Allen.
Certainly shows you how the experience counts. He just passed about 7 riders within 2 corners. It's a real treat for those guys when a rider such as Malcolm or any of the leading riders come past you. The 6 hour, you can learn an awful lot by following them for 2 or 3 laps.
They're going to have to step on the gas to be able to follow them, I think.
Right. As they get a little bit more in the groove, they'll be able to follow them a little bit longer, but probably learn more in a Castrol 6 hour race than you do in a year of doing normal meetings, I think.
Beautiful the way Campbell just cut inside that lap rider there, had him lined up from about 2 corners before.
Timing the gap between the leader, Campbell, and Willing in 2nd place on the Honda number 8 shows that Campbell's quicker around the back part of the circuit, but Willing's quicker from the Honda corner up to the kink on the main straight.
"15 minutes into the race and the threat of rain becomes a reality for Malcolm Campbell. The clouds over Amaroo Park have started to drop rain on the back of the circuit. It's only light at this stage, but it's in fact that very light rain, Dennis Steele, that could be the most dangerous for the riders at this stage."
Absolutely critical. You can see a little bit of rain on your visor. You're not sure how damp the track is, and actually you have to wait until the bike does something wrong, such as a slide, to let you know what's actually happening. The rain, it's hard to work out the clouds. There's sun in one part and it's raining in others. It's really mixed.
A huge pity for the Castrol 6 Hour, because the last thing we needed was the third successive year of rain. We've really all been waiting to see this huge clash between the Honda 1100 and the Suzuki 1100 at Amaru Park in the big race, the Castrol, and we just don't need rain to spoil it.
Actually lasted for about 2 laps, and I think with the heat, the slight amount of heat that is in the track, probably hasn't affected things too much. The riders don't certainly seem to be slowing down at all.
But you can see there already that the sun is coming out again at the back of the track, where rain was only 2 laps before. Okay.
Threading their way through the traffic in 6th place, Pete Byers, the Queenslander, heading a trio of charging riders, because hot on his heels, he's on a Honda, hot on his heels is Neil Chivers, the winner of the race with Alan Hales a couple of years ago. He's on a Suzuki number 6, you can see him there, and in behind him, in 8th place, is Andrew Johnson, again a race winner in the Castrol, on bike number 3, another Honda. There he is. So that trio are in 6th, 7th and 8th place. And Andrew Johnson sweeping up incredibly wide there. But there's the 3 of them. Going hammer and tongs, and Chivers nearly through, but sticking the Suzuki neck out. Watch him down at Honda corner, which is the hard corner for the Suzukis, where alternator covers are at a risk. And Chivers and his co-rider Rod Cox have got to be looked at for a good, well-judged, steady race pace. Very nicely placed in 7th position. And when hard charges like Campbell out in front, Phyllis and others who tend to be more of sprinters, perhaps run into trouble, perhaps are harder on their tyres or brakes, it's people like Chivers and Cox. And that's a very strong team in behind too. Johnson and Greg Pretty, both of them Australian Unlimited champions on Grand Prix bikes, both of them highly experienced endurance race bike riders. Success in the RI 500, Castrol 6 Hour and other long distance production races.
Some 5 seconds behind the leader, and the dice is really on for second place between Neville Hiscock on bike 1 and Len Willing on bike 8. They've swapped the lead twice on this lap so far. Willing in the lead at the moment. Hiscock comes up, ranges alongside him, and that's how close they are. Hiscock really throwing out a challenge. The big brakes of the Honda stopping a little bit quicker into Winfield corner. Hiscock with a big bit right between his teeth. Glenn Woolley onto this bike only at the beginning of this week, having split with the Toshiba Yamaha team. Traffic will slow Willing down through here. Hiscock snicks underneath to stay in touch with him. So difficult in traffic to stay in touch with the bike in front. Hiscock doing it perfectly.
I think Neville might set himself up for a run into stop corner this time.
Too big the gap.
He'd be the most aggressive rider on the circuit, I'd say, Neville. He really goes at it.
But hard on his bike as well, too, Dennis.
Very hard on the bike, yeah.
Would have to be the most suspect in terms of taking care of the rear tyre, for example.
Right, well, if the weather does hold, all the leading teams intend to change the rear tyres, so they can go absolutely 100% at it and change the tyre.
There he goes.
Beautiful move, fastest part of the circuit. 112, 115 mile an hour across there.
And now Willing will take the challenge. Willing also not a man to back off.
No, Lenny hasn't had much experience on these big capacity production bikes, but had a lot of experience on Grand Prix bikes and really knows what he's doing.
the bumps in Honda Corner, probably going to become an unsettling influence, especially later in the race when they get covered with rubber.
We'll see if the Honda here has any power advantage up the straight. However, I doubt it. Don't really get a chance to wind them up properly on such a short straight as Amaroo Park. A little bit more.
Takes fourth gear up the straight. Oh, and there's someone down, the first casualty in the Castrol 6 hour. Like 13 in the Castrol, 13th Castrol 6 hour race, Campbell Ferris and Michael Bundy on the Honda 900. So unlucky 13 really does strike, doesn't it?
That's actually a little CBX 550 they're riding. They decided to switch bikes because the 550 was a little bit easier to ride.
And qualified equal 21st.
Dominating the 750cc class, 19-year-old New Zealand rider Bob Toomey on a Suzuki bike 30 right there is about to be lapped by the outright leader Malcolm Campbell, and there he goes in the inside. Malcolm Campbell on lap 46 takes the 750cc class leader one lap down for the first time. Magnificent riding for Toomey. He's riding 13th outright position. He's 21.9 seconds ahead of the second place in his class, Richard Scott. And it's Robert Holden on the bike, not Toomey. Robert Holden, the other New Zealand rider, 23 years of age, riding the machine. So he's doing brilliantly on this bike. And with 56 laps of the Castrol 6 hour down, the scoreboard tells the story. Leading the race is Malcolm Campbell on his Suzuki. He's 6.94 seconds ahead of Neville Hiscock, last year's winner, also on a Suzuki, who in turn is 1.28 seconds ahead of Len Willing on the first of the Hondas. Then comes bike 14, Rob Phillips. He's 12.73 seconds behind Willing. Then bike 7, the second of the Team Matic Hondas, Alan Blanco and Jeff French. And in sixth position, bike 5, John Pace, Pete Byers on their Honda 1100. They're 7.2 seconds behind bike 7.
And just behind them is this bunch. Johnson on bike 3, just behind Chivers on bike 6, and just in front of 8, Len Willing. Sorry, 10, not Willing, Glenn Taylor.
And hello, Andrew. It's Andrew Johnson, after biding his time in 9th position, has started his big charge through the field. Johnson's now up to 6th position and starting to knock on the door of bike 7, and he's through him, through Alan Blanco, Jeff French, and takes over 5th slot on the racetrack. And this is the charge we've been waiting for. Andrew Johnson, the pre-race favourite, 3 races won this year in production bike racing, and he's flying. Now on the tail of bike 14, Rob Phillips.
He's been held up for quite a while there by Peter Byers. Now that he's through, he's really got going, and I think it'll only be a matter of a lap or so, and he'll be past Robbie Phillips.
Well, this is the hard charging AJ we've come to know and love, and there he goes down under brakes into Winfield, and look at the big stoppers on the Honda.
Beautiful. Oh, very wide coming out though.
Thank goodness for the concrete.
The 6 of these bikes separated by 2.2 seconds, covering 4th place back.
Phillips snatches it back. Now Johnson up the inside this time, can't do it. 1.5 seconds the gap between those 6 bikes again.
I think Andrew will try and pass Robbie again, going down into Honda Corner on the inside like he did the lap before.
Phillips holding 4th place in the motorcycle race.
Setting himself up through the high speeder here. Not quite close enough that lap.
The Blanco French bike right up into the dice too.
Pulls a nice tight line. See the difference in line between the 2 riders there. Andrew tucks it really tight and gets the power on early, as Robbie goes in a little bit faster and takes a much wider exit.
Well, that's the difference between bikes too. The Suzuki has to be left upright, whereas the Honda can be driven out hard and tight.
Right.
And look at that incredible crocodile chain. Bike 14, 3, 7, 5 and 6.
Chivers in the yellow leathers and Glenn Taylor on 10 at the tail end of the bunch. And he is only 1.4 seconds behind the leader of that pack of 6. Lloyd
Chamberlain on the Suzuki 1100 getting in the way. Johnson desperate for an outside pass on him. Can't do it, up onto the riffle strips. Oh,
This will really get him aggro. You watch him go now. He'll really get his dander up here.
the Blanco French bike deals with Roy Chamberlain. That's Johnson. And it's 1 hour down in the Castrol 6 hour. 1 hour completed, 63 laps done. And that means if that keeps going, there'll be a 378 lap there. There goes Andrew Johnson over the top. And this time there's no mistake. Will Phyllis try for it? No, he can't. But with 63 laps down in the Castrol 6 hour over 1 hour, that means we're looking at 378 laps. If they keep going at this place, take into account pit stops, maybe a little less, but that's way up on the race record of 360 laps for the race. And now with Johnson really trying, it's Willing and Sharp who face jeopardy in third position. .22.49 seconds the gap up to Lenny Willing in third place, so Andrew Johnson's got to find clear track in front of him and really get the hammer into it to catch up. But that, Dennis Neal, is exactly what he's going to try to do.
Andrew will pull away now. He's been held up for a while by this, by Peter Byers and Robbie Phillips, but now he's got a clear track in front of him. He'll I'd say, extend himself about half a second a lap.
The early race leader, Wayne Clark, was called in by his crew just after the hour because he was too slow. He dropped to 15th place, and then the international rider, Wayne Gardner, only 2 laps on the bike, started to get busy. Really busy. And Lucky knows what he's doing to hang on to it there out of Honda as he's just settling in and desperately trying to make up ground. This is Wayne Gardner, and now he knows something about the limits of the track condition at Honda Corner. But obviously disappointed with the team position because they were in 15th place when Wayne Clark was called in early. Gardner got on the bike, and now he's really keen to pick up ground, and of course with an early pit stop and perhaps an extra one over the other bikes, they're in a very bad situation. Well back in behind 20th place.
1 hour 15 minutes into the Castrol 6 hour, and race leader Malcolm Campbell has been given the nod. It's into the pits this time round. The race order at the moment is really the clash of the superbikes. It's Suzuki, Honda, Suzuki, Honda, Suzuki, Honda, filling the first 6 places. What incredible racing at Amaru Park. Half a lap to go before Campbell comes to the pits, and it's got to be a lightning stop.
He's on his 79th lap, and it's been a great ride from Campbell in this opening session. A couple of sprinkles of rain. Handled it well. He's ridden the bike pretty smoothly, and here he comes, except that he did bump the alternator cover, we think, at Honda Corner earlier on, but it hasn't troubled him. That was much earlier than halfway through his session, and now to hand over to Roger Hayes.
And behind him, Richard Scott coming in second place in the 750cc class. Watches on. Oh, slow stop already. Stopped far too far out. Nice and casual, Roger Hayes, but this is going for a long stop. Oh, all over everyone else's equipment. What a sloppy stop.
18.41 seconds stationary as Ron Bolden goes out on the second bike in the 750 class, taking over from Richard Scott, who's done the first stint for him.
And back to 4th place is Roger Hayes on bike 4, having lost first, second and third in the pits, and it was a really sloppy stop. Certainly not up to standard. Dennis Neal is in the pits.
Right, we're interviewing Malcolm Campbell, the race leader, who's just come in after doing an incredible riding stint. You're doing really good times, Malcolm, 56.5, 56.8, lap after lap. You're slipping through the traffic really well. How was it out there?
Really good. The first few laps were a bit hectic and a bit nervy till I settled in, but everything was going good then. Going so hard because we've got one more fuel stop in the Hondas, so we're trying to pull 12 seconds each session, and we got the 12 seconds exactly that session. So.
Right, well, you were certainly doing an incredible job. When you came in, you couldn't quite see your pit area, I take it, because you overshot a bit.
There were some other guys up the lane a bit, and I thought it was them. I couldn't pick them.
And there's the 750cc class pit stop. Bike 30 into the pits, holding a substantial lead over second place, which of course... And Toomey's on the bike, as Holden's off. Running 13th outright, this machine.
Let's talk to him, he's the leader of the 750.
20 seconds gone already. 22.5 seconds to stop. So they'll retain their lead in the 750cc class quite easily, in fact. And Toomey takes his time getting out onto the track. No fuss, no hurry about this young 19-year-old rider from New Zealand until he gets on the bike, and then he flies. There's Shivas, Cox, now into the pits, the last of the significant Suzuki stops. Suzuki's having to take their changes much earlier than the Hondas, which are putting the Hondas in the lead on the road. Bike 8, Len Willing, is leading on a Honda. Rod Cox goes out, replacing Neil Shivas. So the last of the Suzuki stops down. Now they'll start to really motor, realizing that the Hondas have to take their stops in about 10 seconds' time as Bike 30 goes through to unlap itself in the lead in the 750cc class, but that, of course, will only be temporary.
Right, interviewing Robert Holden here, who's currently leading the 750 class and coming 13th outright. An incredible job, Robbie. How are you finding it out there?
It's good. The only real problem is the slower guys on the 1100s. They got a bit more grunt down the straights. You can outride them, but they just seem to get you back again. But it's quite good. Everything's going well. The tyres and everything are really brilliant. It's really good.
That's great. We put the watch on you up there, and you're doing consistent 57.5, 58. Really, really good time, and I guess that's why you're so far up.
Yeah. Like I say, the whole bike's handling good. The tyres are gripping really well. The brakes, everything's just spot on. If we need to go fast, we possibly could, but it's good to cruise at that type of speed, and we'll just see how it goes later on.
And here's the first big race drama. Lenny Willing is coming into the pits early on the Honda 1100. He had to do an hour and a half to allow him to get through the Castrol 6 hour with only 3 stops. He's coming in 6 minutes too early, and that effectively means that he's going to lose 1 pit stop and be equal with the Suzukis on pit stops. It puts a lot of jeopardy on the rest of the Hondas as well. Willing off, Vince Sharp on. Watch the going. Vince Sharp will risk himself. He's not raced this year. He's crashed twice, causing himself knee injuries on both occasions. He's out in only 13 seconds, and that's a lot better than anyone else. So the slick Matic team working well in the pits.
But actually in the pit area for more than 30 seconds, so time lost really adds up, although he's only stationary for 13. The race leader has now gone to 3rd place behind Andrew Johnston, the new race leader, on 3. 2nd place, Roger Hayes on the Suzuki number 4.
Vince Sharp on the bike now. His left hand, his left knee really hurting him. He went down the road during the week and in fact faces a trip to hospital tonight or tomorrow morning to have a tendon looked at in a small operation. But Sharp, probably the very weak link of the Team Matic team. Quickly overtaken there by the Byers pace bike, and round the outside by Glenn Taylor as he settles into the bike 8.
Glenn Taylor at the moment's 5th place too, on bike number 10. In fact, it's been in the opening laps. As new riders have got on the bikes, that we've seen quite a lot of drama. Wayne Gardner, who got sideways on the bike that he took over from Wayne Clark. We saw Roger Hayes in a problem with another bike. We saw also Gardner cut across the front of somebody and nearly take his front wheel from him on the main straight.
Lenny, the race leader, you just came and did an incredibly fast pit stop. How are you finding things out there?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's hard to say whether it's going to rain or not. At 1 minute there's a bit of water and then it's gone again. But the bike's going good. The traffic's a bit hectic, and there's a few people bringing a lot of dirt onto the racetrack, but provided the rain stays away, it should be a good day.
The bike's handling well?
Yeah, going good. Yeah, no problems there.
Well, that's very good. Thanks very much.
No problem.
Not exactly the time for Len Willing to say that, because Vince Sharp almost threw it away there on Winfield Corner, and now behind him bike 7, the Alan Blanco Jeff French bike indicates the other team bike, indicates either he's coming into the pits or he was simply indicating his surprise at what Vince Sharp was doing in the lead.
If Glenn Taylor in 5th place gets to the hour and a half mark, in which he's only got another couple of minutes, a couple of laps to do so, then he will be one of the Hondas that will be running through on 3 stops, not 4 as for the Suzukis, and now possibly this bike number 8 with Vince Sharp aboard. And there's a bit of pressure from a rider, Jeff French, who's wanting to unsettle the new boy in the saddle, although they're in the same team.
Yes, they are in the same team. This would not be pleasing Frank Matic, the team leader, at all. There's an old dictum that you just don't race amongst teammates, at least not this early in the event.
But look at that clash for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. The race leader at the moment is still Andrew Johnson on bike number 3. He is 15.15 seconds in front of this trio. Roger Hayes, Glenn Taylor, the latter of those 3, sandwiched in the middle, Pete Byers. A lot of people barely knew of Pete Byers when he qualified a Honda 6 here 2 Castrols ago, but he still doesn't come down to the south very often. But you can see there he's doing a fine job. He's in 2nd place. My word, he is. So it's Byers Hayes, and Hayes looking as though he's not able to sustain the pace set by Campbell, as looming on him too is Glenn Taylor. 14.76 seconds, the gap now, 1st to 2nd place. As Byers pulls in just a little bit of ground, both on Hayes, but also on the race leader. Andrew Johnson, he's to hand over to Greg Pretty, and he should be able to keep the bike circulating at a very similar pace to Johnson.
Oh, and Roger Hayes clipped the Honda Apex there and very, very nearly got himself into a lot of trouble. The 1.5 hour mark now gone, so the Hondas, the remaining Hondas, which have not yet had their pit stops, are in a very good position.
Len Willing's early stop, perhaps indicative of the difficulty he had early on in the race with Neville Hiscock. Must have been a bit expensive on fuel for Len Willing, that concentrated dice he had with him. But remember that 1st, 4th, 5th and 6th place are still to stop for their first pit stop.
In the pits is Scott Stevens, Rick Walden, Honda 1100. That's the first of his scheduled stops.
Rick Walden doesn't do a lot of motorcycle racing these days, concentrating on flying choppers, and he looks pretty weary as he sinks to the to the ground against the Armco fencing. The young boy getting on the bike from Tasmania, like Malcolm Campbell from the Southern Isle, Scott Stevens, he's a hard charger. Got a lot of talent, this boy. He was a reserve rider for the Mattich team.
There's the
we
Honda
look there at Glenn Taylor coming in. But Scott Stevens was a reserve rider for the Mattich team, was freed from that to take the place of an injured Hall on bike 15. And this is Glenn Taylor now handing over to the Queenslander, David Robbins.
Good stop, 12.5 seconds. Tony Hatton, the team manager, obviously pleased with it.
Robbins dislocated a shoulder at Surfers a couple of weeks ago. Got out wide in the grass. He said he just wasn't concentrating. He was dicing with Neville Hiscock and just ran wide, came off, dislocated his shoulder. And he said if you pushed him really hard on his left shoulder now, it would go out. It doesn't worry him when he's riding.
Robin's very sensitive about the tag that's been given to him this week, and that is of a wily old veteran. He points out that he's only 29 years of age, so he says, and claims that he's not nearly as old as a lot of the other guys he's racing against. Certainly he's been around a lot of years, though, and I think to say he's wily at least is very appropriate.
It's perhaps a compliment to his very smooth riding as Wayne Gardner goes underneath him. Wayne Gardner hasn't been lapping particularly quickly. He's been in the 58s so far since he's got on the bike. He's had a couple of wildish sort of moments. 21 in behind them is Schoolar Dowson, the West Australian, and they are running 5th in the 750 class.
In second position, Pete Byers and John Pace into the pits. Byers off the bike, Pace waiting to get on it.
Don't go cross.
Words of wisdom, slower stop, 15 seconds gone so far. Wheels turn at 19.5 seconds, so a slow stop from that bike. There it is, bike 7. The Mattich team bike has had a real wheel change already this early in the event. Alan Blanco and Jeff French. Now this is tactics. It obviously couldn't be something going wrong with the tyre. They've decided to go out and change the tyre on this bike early in the event. That probably means that a tyre will be changed on the next team bike, the Willing Sharp bike, next time round. But they've got their wheel change on bike 7, Alan Blanco and Jeff French, done early in the event. That's Alan Blanco on the bike now. Interesting tactics indeed from the Mattich team to do it this early. Now, if they put a gumball tyre on, hoping to get only through an hour and a half, their tactics have certainly failed because that bike wasn't nearly far enough up to warrant doing that sort of work. So we must assume that it's a tactic that may not have come off.
The race leader is this bike, Andrew Johnson, bike number 3, calling to the pits now, and he's been out there 1 hour, 42 minutes, some 16 minutes longer than Len Willing managed on his Honda 1100R. He's got a 27.5 second lead over second place, the Suzuki of Hayes Campbell, that's already done its pit stop, so it'll be very close between these two after the pit stop out there on the track. Casual. And it was 4.3 seconds back from second place to first place.
Bike 4 goes through.
Number 8, which is Willing and Sharp. So bike 3 has now fallen to 4th place. The new race order is race leader Roger Hayes on 4, second place Len Willing on the Honda number 8, so it's Suzuki from Honda, third place Neville Hiscock, Rod Gray on Suzuki 1100 number 1, and 4th place the Honda that just stopped there, now with Greg Pretty, the South Australian, in the saddle on bike 3. Greg Pretty, who fell off the bike last year in the rain when the bike was similarly well positioned. And let's hear now from the man that had that bike in the lead, Andrew Johnson.
Andrew, an incredibly fast pit stop. You've got a substantial lead at the stage. How are you finding it out there?
It's good, Dennis. The tyres aren't sliding, they're hanging on good. I'm having a lot of problems with the traffic, but I seem to be getting around them.
You look like you were really using your head at the start of the race. You weren't the old Andrew we knew out leading it. You hung back in about 5th or 6th place. Then once you started to make your move, you were really reeling them in.
Yeah, well, I wanted to conserve a bit more fuel too. The first opening laps I knew they'd be going for it, and I didn't want to be with them, but I just wanted to pick them off.
That's obviously been successful because you have remained out there longer than any other bike.
Yeah.
With 1/3 of the race distance gone and the first pit stop's over, this is the race for the lead in the Castrol 6 Hour between Roger Hayes on bike 4 and on bike 8. Vince Sharp coming up, ranging alongside him. Less than 10 seconds covers the top 4 riders in the Castrol 6 Hour. An incredible race. Hayes has been reeled back by Vince Sharp on bike 8, the Team Matic Honda, and there seems to be nothing that the wily Roger Hayes, twice winner of the event, can do about it. He's been sneaking his way through traffic, trying to put slow bikes in between him and Sharp, but to no avail, because now Sharp is right on his tail. See there, Hayes just manages to put a slow bike between him and give himself another respite. In 3rd position on the road is Neville Hiscock, and in 4th, Greg Pretty on the Team Honda bike that Andrew Johnson gave to him.
And after 119 laps of racing, only 6 seconds separates the first 4 bikes.
Well, tactics would be the least thing on Roger Hayes' mind at the moment. The tactics are these: bike 4, Hayes leading, the Willing Sharp bike behind him, and the Hiscock bike behind that again, all face 3 additional pit stops. In 4th position, 6 seconds only behind the leader, Greg Pretty and Andrew Johnson only need 2 extra pit stops. So they at this moment must be seen to be in the tactically good position.
And that gap 1st to 4th has come down to only 5 seconds, as in 4th place, Greg Pretty on bike number 3, Honda number 3, is catching Rod Gray, the South African, as the lead changes, catches the South African on bike number 1, co-riding with Neville Hiscock on the Suzuki. So now Honda leads from Suzuki. Suzuki's also in 3rd place, but being caught by another Honda. Vince Sharp being helped perhaps by bike 7 trailing him a lap down with a new rear tyre. He's been sticking with him all the way on his charge through the field to the lead. A bit hard to count how many leaders we've had in the race so far, but there's been quite a number. But this is the first time for bike number 8, Vince Sharp, a man who was concerned about having a pain-killing injection this morning on his leg, who went to see the doctor between practices yesterday and today, and quite likely to have to receive medical treatment on it after today's race. Wasn't too sharp a pit stop, but it didn't stop them from hitting the lead.
And for the 3rd time in 2 hours, the rain starts coming down again, and that's brought Max Thompson and Bernie Summers on their Kawasaki 750 down. That's Summers on, or rather off the bike at this stage. And that shows that you're going to have to be very careful out there now, because that shower of rain, which is almost invisible to the riders, but which is covering the track with a small amount of water, is making the conditions here very dicey indeed. Enough rubber now being laid on the track that a mixture of that and water makes the conditions treacherous.
But the situation at the lead has changed again, with Roger Hayes forging back in front of Vince Sharp. 4 different bikes have led the race so far, and Sharp takes him on a wide outside line on the run up to the loop. And there he is, and he entered the loop first, and things are treacherous. This is the moment when anybody could come undone. You see there that the 2nd Matic team bike, the Jeff French Alan Blanco number 7 Honda, is back in front of bike 8, and there's Roger Hayes Now looking as though he might slip just a touch behind Sharp. Sharp who's doing a great job, backing up a very good early session by Len Willing, and the rain is really getting serious.
Oh! Vince Sharp, that deserves applause. What a fantastic save.
Well,
Sharp.
there's going to be a fair deal of that in the next few minutes, I think. The riders know the conditions. No time to fit wet weather gear. Leather's absorbing the rain. And with nearly an hour still on the bike for some riders, unable to get waterproof gear on. And Sharp a peel off on his visor. Might just be an extra Perspex coating on it. Let's have a look at that one again, if your heart can take it. Oh, how sideways can you get? And he's still got to get around the corner. And that would have earned applause and relief from a fair number of the people in the pit counter. Same man a lap later. Now that's better. And there's a fall in the rain. Number 35 is Hodgson Peter Muir on a Honda 750. Wayne Gardner, incidentally, on bike 2. The only Honda 750 in the race.
And there's bike 8, the race leader, is down. Vince Sharp has thrown it away. So on lap 130 of the Castrol 6 hour, the first leader crashes out of the race. That's Sharp up on the left of your screen, limping away. That's the knee that he hurt during a practice crash earlier in the week. So it would appear that he survived this one without major injury. But what a great disappointment for the Maddage team, and especially for his co-rider, Len Willing, who did such a wonderful job in the first hour and a half to put this bike into a winning position, only to have a combination of the rain and, dare I say it, Vince Sharp's lack of race experience this year put it away. There's
That's
new
the man
leader.
that's inherited the lead, Roger Hayes on 4. Got a nice lead over 1. Rod Gray, the South African, the Suzuki that he shares with Neville Hiscock. Third place then on 3 is Johnson Pretty. It's 9.9 seconds exactly the lead. The gap first to second, Hayes back to Hiscock, and it's 3.5 seconds. The gap back to third place, Pretty Johnson. So it's Suzuki, Honda, first, second and third. Fourth and fifth are 5. Pete Byers, John Pace, and 10, Glenn Taylor, Dave Robbins. John Pace is an acknowledged wet weather runner in 4th place.
And speaking of runners, that's Len Willing going out for the Vince Sharp bike right now. So Willing not prepared to give it away. He's going for the bike and wants to get it back in the race.
Dreadful to have placed it so well.
It's a long run. He'll be exhausted by the time he gets there. That's Frank Mattich, the team manager and team owner, in fact. It's his money that's on the line. And he's not happy. And that's what we're talking about, the Vince Sharp bike, and it's just sitting there, which means that Sharp has probably made up his mind that it's not worth taking it back to the pits, something that Len Willing will learn about shortly.
Glenn Taylor's in 5th place.
Someone else is down by the looks of it. Someone's...
6th place is Phyllis and Cole.
Yep. There's another one.
4, Roger Hayes, the other race, the man who just inherited the race lead with Radford and Howard. So the new race leader is Hiscock and Gray. There's Roger Hayes. Well, at least it gives Vince Sharp somebody to sympathise with. They've tangled, and perhaps the slower rider was the cause of it. We don't know. But Hayes looks very much as though it's all over for Suzuki number 4. So that the new race leader, the South African Rod Gray, sharing with last year's winner Neville Hiscock, Suzuki number 1 goes into the lead. 2nd place then becomes Andrew Johnson, Greg Pretty. And remember, they went a pretty fair distance before they had to pit. 3rd place becomes Pace and Byers, another Honda. And with John Pace strong under wet, slippery conditions. Taylor Robbins, 4th place on number 10.
There's the race leader.
That's the new race leader. And surely there's enough warning now for these riders, as he gets the signal that he's in the lead, not to let things go. 1.4 seconds. The gap, though, from first to second, 1.4 seconds only. Seabike 5 in there, paced buyers. That's in 3rd place, so it's nearly...
That's Scott Stevens on bike 15. But bike 3 is right behind in 2nd position, has closed right up. That's Greg Pretty, right in the 3rd of that bunch.
This is the dice for the lead. In the Castrol 6 hour, after 133 laps of racing, the race lead goes now to Greg Pretty, the South Australian, with Gardner pulling in from about 25th place when he called Wayne Clark in at the end of 1 hour, got on the bike, nearly came off it at Honda Corner, has been as much as 42 seconds behind the race leader. Wayne Gardner is now 19.4 seconds back and is in a miraculous, incredible 7th place. Bike number 2.
Proved a great wet weather runner in the previous 6-hour races.
And there's the Roger Hayes bike back in the pits now and being prepared. Malcolm Campbell getting ready to get on the machine. The crew's having a good look over it now, measuring the tread depth of the tyres, and that's pretty important. You could hardly call it feverish activity around the machine, however, and I think they know their race has been run.
Roger Hayes, the race winner in 76 and 78, co-riding on both occasions with Jim Budd, finding it's very much harder to win it in recent years.
Ron Kivovich from Suzuki walks up to speak to Roger Hayes.
Roger not too keen on the wet. He doesn't particularly like it.
And the bike moves back into the fray, and we'll soon know exactly how far down it is, but of course it's several laps.
Roger, terrible luck. You're in the lead there, had a substantial lead. Started raining and people coming down like 9 pins. What happened in your case?
With some slow traffic, and the guy in front of me over the top of the hill, he just fell off, and I had nowhere to go, and the bike hit my bike, and down I went.
Did it do much damage to it?
I think it's only twisted, just the front end, you know. I think we've got it almost straight.
You sent Malcolm back out on it?
Yeah.
How were the tyres hanging on in the wet?
Not too bad. It was just, you know, conditions were bad, and I was just trying to ride to the conditions, you know.
And into the pits comes bike number 1. Rod Gray, the South African riding, sharing that bike with Neville Hiscock, who, in a very steady first session performance, got it into the lead. 158 laps completed, 2 hours, 38 minutes of racing, and in 3rd place at this stage. Gray onto the ramp. This is the crucial pit stop. Take off the top locating arms for the shocks. They've done this in only 20 seconds, not the conventional way to change a wheel axle out. New one ready. This is brilliant. Going beautifully. 13, 14 seconds. A wheel's in. Axle's in. They've practiced it. No, axle's not in yet. Now aligning axle. Top mounting for the shocks to be done yet. 26. They said if it went badly it might take 30. Engine started. And it's taken 35.
Get out of the way! Get out of the way!
Panic taking over from practice, but away, and it took them 43.7. Well, it wasn't to plan. They'd practiced it at 20 odd. They'd done an entirely different system, and they reckoned if it went badly it'd take 30, and you saw the end result. But it's still, on a bike in which it's difficult to change a wheel, isn't bad. If you change a wheel on a GSX Suzuki, according to the manual, you undo about 9 nuts and bolts. And they found their way around that situation pretty well. Neville Hiscock really fired up. and hoping that everything's tight and as it should be in the back end of the motorbike. Also in the pits, Wayne Gardner and Wayne Clark, who came in early and had to do a tyre change, having gambled on the wrong compound early on, as was the case with bike 7, the French Alain Blanco Matic team bike. These are road-type tyres, as everything on the bikes are standard, ex-factory. There's no modifications allowed other than in very minor things like handlebars, brand of plugs and points and so on. But they're standard motorbikes with mirrors and things removed, and therefore they must run treaded road tyres. But the factories, Pirelli in Italy and Dunlop in Japan, have been busy this year working with Frank Matic and with Dennis Neal respectively in developing different compounds and tyre constructions so that they've got almost a race selection of rubber, although they are essentially road tyres. And now in the pits, let's hear from the co-rider of bike number 1, fresh from his last stint.
Right, all the way over from South Africa. We certainly haven't turned on very good weather for you. How are you finding things out there?
Well, we're going real well in the dry, and once it started raining, I just eased off quite a lot, and I was just pacing myself with Roger Hayes, and we're keeping him -4, -5 the whole way, and eventually Roger fell off on top of the hill. It was very slippery out there, you know, and it's dried up quite nicely now.
Right, now the track's dried out again now. You brought the bike in. We noticed Neville's got the team to change the rear tyre. What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, we were going to change the tyre at this pit stop anyway, and the tyre were real good until it started raining, and I just took it easy, you know. A few guys fell down, and you know, I think we can get going again now that it's dried out.
So you've mainly changed it as a precaution in case it does rain again. You'll have a fresher tyre which will work that much better.
Correct.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And you see there how Neville Hiscock, now really fired up on bike number 1, overtook the Wayne Gardner, Wayne Clark Honda number 2 in his opening lap out on the track. So that the race leader at this stage is John Pace, Pete Byers, the Honda number 5, from Johnson and Pretty on Honda number 3, and Hiscock Gray dropping only to 3rd on number 1. Behind them, Gardner and Clark, number 2. Boy, he's really aggressive with the bike too. Race leader, 165 laps completed, an hour and 2 3/4 hours of riding. John Pace, Honda number 5. Little John Pace had a brilliant wet weather clash with Wayne Gardner a couple of years ago. And then we saw a very nasty accident here at Amaroo up in the Dunlop Loop on a Grand Prix bike in a telecast meeting. And round the back of the circuit, it was about there, I think a few metres before this point, the track was wet there and dry elsewhere, and John just got into the most horrific slide, was thrown off, and his leg badly broken. But he's recovered beautifully from that, showing a lot of aggression and planned pace, and really has run that bike nice and steadily, and now leads from 3 Johnson Pretty on their Honda, 2, Gardner and Clark, another Honda. And 6, the best placed of the Suzukis, Chivers and Cox, 1 lap down. There's the best placed of the Suzukis. As you can see, 1 lap down, it's in 4th place.
Gardner and Clark, and at number 6 has moved up into 5th position. That's Neil Chivers and Rod Cox. They've moved up into 5th place and going back to 6th position. There's number 14, Doc Phillips and Mick Cole.
Chivers Cox changing over, went in 6th place. They called into the pits at 1 lap down, had been overtaken just before the stop by Phyllis Cole on another Suzuki. So Honda's running 1st to 3rd, and Suzuki's 4th and 5th. 5th place they were in until the pit stop. Bike 10, the immediate threat to them, the Glenn Taylor, Dave Robbins Honda number 10, followed by the Hiscock Rod Gray Suzuki number 1. And as 6 goes out again, has fallen behind number 10, so is in 6th place. 172 laps completed by the race leader, number 5, John Pace, Honda 1100. Coming up within about 15 minutes, that's 10, to the 2nd pit stop. Now, Ron Bolden gunning 22 rounds hard, running 2nd place in the 750cc class, and 11th outright Bolden, 9th outright, and leading that class is number 30, the Suzuki of Toomey and Holden, two New Zealanders who have led it all day. This Ron Bolden, Grand Prix rider essentially, and doesn't really like production bikes very much. Shared the bike originally with fellow Grand Prix bike rider Gary Coleman. But the problem was that when Len Willing was sacked from the Toshiba Yamaha dealer team, it left Richard Scott, New Zealander and a very talented rider, without a ride. He was in fact quicker than both Bolden and Coleman on the bike by about a second and a half. And so one of the riders had to stand down, and Ron, being the better known and sort of lead rider in the team, he was the man that got the ride, and Gary Coleman's pit crew today.
And with the half distance of the Castrol 6 hour coming up, 184 laps completed, which goes towards making a race record at Amaroo Park. This is the official leaderboard. In 1st position, Bike 5, John Pace and Peter Byers on a Honda 1100, yet to have their 2nd stop. In 2nd position, Bike 7, Alan Blanco and Jeff French on their Honda 1100. They've changed a tyre early in the event, and they're flying on Bike 3, in 3rd place. Bike 3, Andrew Johnson and Greg Pretty on their Honda 1100. Then comes the first Suzuki, Bike 14, Rob Phillis and Michael Cole, ahead of Wayne Gardner, now up onto the same lap and flying after his second stop, because remember he stopped earlier the first time on his Honda 1100. And then in 6th position, Bike 1, last year's winners, Neville Hiscock and Rod Gray on their Suzuki 1100.
Pits, bike number 6, Chivers and Cox. They're lying 9th place, 1 lap down. They're the 4th of 4 bikes that are 1 lap down. The bikes behind them are 2 laps down, and look at that alternator cover. My goodness. Well, that's the vulnerable part of a Suzuki, and you can see how vulnerable. It's destroyed.
More consistent with being down the road than actually scraping it, isn't it?
Indeed it is, because it's rubbed over a very wide surface and on the upper part. Indeed. And yet the muffler and the tank looks okay. It's hard to sort out what would...
There's a dent in the end of the muffler.
Yes.
Scrape there.
Might have had a little drop. So things really starting to consolidate now for Honda, with them holding 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th place being held by Suzuki, Phyllis Cole, 5th place Honda, 6th place Suzuki, 7th Honda, and 8th this Suzuki.
Oh, yes, it's certainly been down the road.
That's the other problem. The thing comes in so hot, the heat just gets through everywhere. You really need some pretty well insulated gloves, as we're seeing now. Cruising, looking good. John Pace, bike 5. Looking as though he's going to pick up with, assuming no rain this afternoon, about 4 or 5 laps on the previous race record set in 1979, 360 laps by Alan Hale's Neil Chivers.
And only 5 bikes on the same lap at the moment, and about to be 4, because Pace is catching up with Wayne Clark, Wayne Gardner's co-rider, and appears set to lap him and put him 1 lap down again. So Gardner, having ridden a terrific race in the mid-range, especially during the rain, is about to see the placings that he's picked up whittled away again.
This bike 7, that's in 2nd place on the leaderboard, changed tyres early on, was the first bike to do so.
Blanco off the bike, French onto it. And away in particularly quick time, 12.02 seconds the pit stop. Gee, this Matic team is so slick in the pits. Under the control of young Chris Matic, son of Frank, you'd have to be the most professional team that we've seen come into Australian motorcycle sport this year.
They indeed are, because they do various things. Firstly, they service the press very well with information, which few of the teams do. They service other competitors, of course, because they're suppliers of Pirelli tyres and advisors on tyres. And then, of course, they run their own team too, and they do all of it very well.
Dropped back to 3rd place with that pit stop, so the leaderboard now reads John Pace, followed by Greg Pretty on the Honda, yet to have his 2nd stop, and this man, Jeff French, in 3rd position. Bike 3, the Andrew Johnson Greg Pretty bike, in second position, stretched its first pit stop out to 1 hour 42 minutes. So he's still got some way to go before he needs to stop again.
21 there with the leg out. Schooler Dowson are in 5th place, indicating they were calling to the pits as we come again to the race leader.
And boy, is he flying. Look at him straight under 2 bikes like that.
Yes, the rider's now well in the groove, confident, diving deep under brakes, prepared to change line. Wayne Gardner and Wayne Clark, the bike number 2 behind them.
And then behind that, Malcolm Campbell on the Roger Hayes bike, which has been down the road, of course, has got some major contention.
That bike number 4 is 2 laps down and is in 9th place. Not a bad placing, but a long distance behind. Looking very good there for a while until Roger tangled with a slower bike in the rain.
Hayes seemed to be a bit concerned that the frame might have been bent, but certainly Malcolm Campbell is making good use of it if it is. This, John Pacer said, is his last production ride. He's next year to take on a Suzuki 500, and there is bike 10 into the pits. Glenn Taylor and Dave Robbins. Robbins on the bike, getting off to give the bike over to Glenn Taylor, the young Team Honda rider from New South Wales. They're lying in 8th position in the race, 1 lap down on the leaders. Just behind the Scott Stevens, Rick Walden Honda 1100.
Josh Pace, using Castrol.
Taylor feeling the bike out. Getting himself nicely set as bike 3, Greg Pretty, comes up to get him. Pretty yet to take his second stop.
This futuristic looking bike that they're both riding, the Honda CV 1100RB, the second of 2 versions of that bike. The first was non-faired, but this one comes standard with the fairing, with the dual seat or single seat facility, so that behind the rider's tail, over where the pillion would sit, is a cone section that covers the seat, but that's quickly removable with 2 screws and becomes a 2-seat bike, and to be followed, RC it is, not RB, as to be followed by apparently a similar model for next year, but they'll probably bring it back to 1,000 cc's. At 1,100 cc's, it develops about 108 brake horsepower, and in the riding manual for it, the gear chart shows that at 9,100 revs, 5th gear, it's doing 262 miles per hour.
Just lapping
kilometres.
And just lapping then the Grand Prix riders of Greg Johnson and Chris Oldfield on their BMW, sponsored by the Drum Tobacco Company, one of the outside sponsors of the sport, and we're indeed getting more outside sponsors into the sport all the time. It's very good to see. John Pace on the Honda CB 1100R waves to the pits, telling them it's not time to come in yet, although he's going perilously close to going over time with the fuel consumption of this big Honda, and perhaps also the tyre consumption, because in the last couple of laps he's had a couple of small moments as the back end has slid out, and there's a rider down. Obviously a Honda rider, we can't pick it yet. It's the Brian Collins bike. And it would be Hilton Steele or Jelf McNaughton perhaps. And here comes bike 5, race leader in for his pit stop. Finally, there he is. John Pace on the bike. Tyre change coming up. Tyres off in 7 seconds. Working well. 25 seconds gone. Pete Byers already mounted on the machine.
Phil Costick, the boss of men in action motorcycles, up front there.
Here Jack's working. 40 seconds gone. Go, they say, at 44.5 seconds the stop. And they charge back out into the race, down to 4th position. The race order, bike 3, Andrew Johnson, Greg Pretty still to have their stop. Bike 7, Alan Blanco, Jeff French. Bike 14, Rob Phillis, Michael Cole, and then bike 5, now with Pete Byers on it. There's the old tyre that came off. Dennis Neal, who's in the pits, would be in a very good position to assess the situation there. Pirelli tyre. Riding up into 3rd position now, or rather losing 3rd position, is bike 14. Rob Phillis and Mick Cole to this man here, Neville Hiscock, who's starting to storm through the field, has just picked up Hiscock, or rather picked up Phyllis Cole and dealt with them severely. You can see that they're dropping right back, and now he's out chasing. 20.63 seconds the gap between him and Alan Blanco, Jeff French in 2nd position. So Neville Hiscock now starting his charge. The Willing Sharp bike now back in the race, staying with them. Of course, after its drop earlier in the event, it's way down.
Neville Hiscock sharing something with the 1980 World Car Racing champion Alan Jones, both of them being sponsored by Akai.
Third in the 750cc class is this bike, bike 24, being ridden by Lee Roebuck and Paul Feeney. Lee Roebuck on the bike at the moment. Roebuck has been a long-time competitor in the Castrol 6-hour. He was first in the 250cc class in 1975 and backed up the year later to win the 350cc class in 1976. He's also a former Australian Grand Prix champion. Paul Feeney, who's sharing the bike with him, was the find of superbike racing 2 years ago, stepping onto the big, ugly Kawasaki that used to be ridden by Graham Crosby. And he did very well with the bike indeed. Both of them very experienced riders, both of them quite aggressive and doing well to keep their Kawasaki in 3rd position in the 750cc class. The Kawasaki itself, the most powerful machine in the 750cc class, perhaps 5 miles an hour faster than any of the other bikes up the main straight, but hindered a little bit by having its foot pegs slung very low on the bike, therefore reducing ground clearance and slowing the machine through corners, although as you watch Lee Roebuck there, he's really pushing the bike along.
Into the pits comes the race leader, bike number 3, Andrew Johnson, Greg Pretty. His lead had been whittled to 1.96 seconds by the hard charge of bike number 7. That's the Honda of French and Blanco. Rear wheel, please. AJ, Andrew Johnson, destined for possibly for an NS 500 Honda Grand Prix bike, one of the fastest bikes in the world for next season's Grand Prix racing. 15 seconds now in the pits. The horrifying moment when things can really go wrong as you slot the new wheel in. Not quite near the tyre, you can see it's just been bedded, it's got the smoothness off it. 29. Exhaust up above the axle level on the Honda, so they don't have to drop the suspension units as they do on the Suzuki. Dunlop leads going in. Dunlop fitted to 13 of the bikes. Pirelli to double that number, 26. Metzeler to 1:55 seconds. Zipper undone under his shoulder and away with 66.9 seconds, 67 seconds, a very long pit stop. 20 seconds plus worse than any other, and rain again starting to fall, and they are in 6th place outright. Slipped from the lead to 6th in that stop. 66.9 seconds was the time for that change, and that time dropped them 6 places, which gives you an idea of how closely the bikes still are bunched after 221 laps, 3 hours, 39 minutes of racing.
Talking to Greg, you got a slight lead there, Greg. You came in, done a usual pit stop, and you've changed your wheel as well. What was the problem?
I was having a lot of trouble through traffic, and with the yellow flags, I wasn't able to keep my times as consistent as I like, but also with the tyre sliding now, it's very difficult, so we did need a new tyre.
Right, I noticed it still had quite a bit of tread left, however, it was just starting to chatter a bit, was it, in the rear end?
Yeah, I think the damp conditions have made it a bit greasy, and well, it's just damn hard to hang over the bike over the bumps.
Most of the other leading teams have changed the wheel, and they've gone out the second ride. It's gone substantially faster, so I think that seems to be the right move at this stage.
Well, I hope we've made the right move, yeah. It's a shame to have to waste that time, but you know, if it means being safer while we're out there, well, then we have to do it.
Thanks, Brett.
And that's the new race leader, bike 7, Jeff French on it, the Team Matic Honda. And just riding with him is bike 10, Glenn Taylor, who is 1 lap down. Right there you can see him behind, is 1 lap down in 7th position. And anxious, of course, to get himself back on the same lap, so we could well see Glenn Taylor starting to mix it with Jeff French. French in his first ever Castrol 6R, the son of John French, winner of the James Hardy 1000 at Bathurst last year. And a man who's keen to take out the double to win the Castrol 6R, just as his famous dad has won the premier car race, production car race in Australia. And what an incredible coup it would be if he did it on his first on his first try here at Amaroo Park.
And behind that race leader, we've had a change for 2nd and 3rd, where Hiscock Gray on their Suzuki number 1 has been overtaken by the Pace Buyers Honda number 5. So the race still really hot. This 13th Castrol 6R, and unbelievably the 3rd in a row that's been bedeviled by rain, wet track, treacherous conditions.
This bike, bike 7, changed its tyre very early in the race. And in doing so, set co-rider Alan Blanco up for a charging run through the wet conditions, which has certainly not done the team's chances any harm at all. I spoke to Frank Matic, the team manager, a small while ago, and he said the only reason that the bike was pulled in early for the tyre change was to allow the other machine, the Willing Sharp bike, the other bike in their team, to have an unhindered tyre change itself later in the event, so that the two tyre changes didn't happen on top of each other. And the rain now is starting to come down again and looks like it's going to settle in for a little while, as it did at just before the 2-hour mark.
We'll be a few minutes before the track's wet and before adhesion really deteriorates. But at the rate it's coming down, that will happen.
Oh, and there's the BMW, bike 12, the Greg Johnson, Chris Oldfield BMW. And it's down and on fire from its fuel tank as the Marshal struggles with the fuel, with the fire extinguisher.
This is going to be somewhat of a high quality and expensive Max Sennett comedy, I think.
You shouldn't do this, you really shouldn't. I mean, this is serious, fellas.
It'd just be silly to start...
Oh, and there it goes. Now we've got a problem.
And we're
seriously
witnessing the destruction of a motorbike.
And that's a beautiful motorcycle too.
The alloy on the engine will now be melting. And finally, just in time to perhaps prevent the entire destruction of it, but the Johnson Oldfield BMW number 12, which was the quickest of the BMWs in practices. It was a fair way down in qualifying. Qualified 33rd equal. This is the top of the hill, of course. Chris Oldfield and Victorian Greg Johnson, the riders. It's never been particularly well placed through the day.
And I perhaps shouldn't be the one to point out that smoking can be a health hazard.
Let's have a look at it again. Down there at the top of the hill. Oh, my goodness. Phew. Well, the rider the seat, you can see, has gone away from it. He's short of it over on the right-hand side of screen. And between the fire and that fall, that BMW is not worth a lot at the moment. It was worth $6,000 odd just before he came adrift at the top of the hill. Let's have a look at that slow motion. There it goes. Well, so lucky for the rider that he was just sliding his way to a halt as the BMW was pummeling itself and bursting into flames. And as I say, not much very salvageable from that bike, as bike 14, the Phyllis Cole Suzuki 1100, in 5th place at this moment, comes in for its pit stop. And again, the slick Suzuki pit stop, undo the top mounting point on a special jack, drop the wheel, and that means you've got to drop the whole swinging arm, which is a beautiful alloy swing arm on these bikes. Must be worth a fortune. The bikes themselves only worth about $4,500. Katana's, I think the big bikes at the moment, remarkably good value in Australia. Really very cheap for the performance and for the sophisticated engineering that's in them. 40 seconds. Axle in. 45.
Dropped one position so far behind the Andrew Johnson Greg Pretty bike.
Mick Cole, the man who was so frustrated years ago on a CBX Honda when he was caught in the pits with a pit stop that just went wrong when he was in the lead in the Castrol 6-hour. He's won at Suzuka in Japan, the 8-hour there. He's won at Calder, the 2-hour down in Victoria, as they run to 72, 73 seconds. But he's never won the Castrol 6-hour. Michael Cole. Now number 1. In 4th place, the man immediately in front of him.
Only 4 bikes on the leading lap at this stage. Oh. And that's self-service, if ever you've seen it.
And going to a different rear to the Elite that they were running earlier. It's a different pattern. So they've not only changed tyre, they've changed type of tyre.
35 seconds. Rod Gray on the bike. Down and away in 40 seconds. A very good one for a tyre change. And away in fourth position. Still on the same lap according to the leaderboard, so that's very, very good going for them. It means that the other three riders, the first three riders, should be very close behind them on the road. Gray feels out the conditions, taking no risks at all. The current South African Formula One champion, which he won last weekend at Kyalami, the race meeting in which tragically Keith Peterson, the elder brother of Dave Peterson, was killed, which is why Dave Peterson isn't here today, although he was entered.
But a great friend of Rod Gray's used to stay with him when they came to Gray's City in South Africa. Gray, solidly built man, quite tall and very stocky, some 82 kilos in weight. See him there being overtaken at this stage by the Kawasaki 750 of Roebuck Feeney, which is lying third in the 750 class. It's ranging up near him, and then of course as Gray gets into gear and starts to feel confident and to have felt out the track, he opens it up and pulls away. But let's go to the pits and to Dennis Neal and to find out about that pit stop.
This is the tyre off the third place bike, Neville Hiscock Action Suzuki. As you can see, it still has quite substantial tread. It was changed earlier in the race, however, with the weather conditions changing so dramatically, looking like it's going to settle in rain for the remainder of the race, I've decided to put a soft compound Metzler on the rear.
Interesting from Dennis Neal that they'd go to that. There's so far only been one team in the race on a Metzler tyre. That's the Richard Schooler Michael Doubtson Yamaha 750, which is sponsored by Metzler. But after all the big money that's been spent on the tyre war here, it's interesting that the people who've not spent so much money are suddenly coming into contention at a time when most need it in the race.
Bike number 28 being ridden by Ian Perrow and Glenn Williams, running third in the 750 class, actually running fairly much to the schedule that Perrow set last year, because they're running 11th outright, third in class. Last year they finished 9th outright and third in the 750 class. Last year on an XJ 750 Yamaha, this year transferring to Kawasaki. And doing a good job, but way out of contention to catch the class leaders, the New Zealanders Toomey and Holden, who lead for Suzuki in that class, from Yamaha running second, Kawasaki running third. A real mix of the three bikes. The only one not in contention there is the 550 Honda, which is an interesting little bike, fairly new model, the CBX 550, much smaller than most of the others, and of course down on capacity by 200 cc's.
Riding in third position, bike 2, Wayne Clark on the Minto Motorcycles Honda 1100, and right behind him is Rod Gray on the Suzuki, who's one lap down and wants his way through. This should also be Clark's pit stop lap. He's had his second stint on the bike and is due to hand over again to Wayne Gardner. This team had to stop earlier, change a rear tyre after Clark was really dropping back in the opening stages. It stopped at 1 hour 4 minutes mark. It's just past the 4 hour mark now, 2/3 of race distance gone, and again Clark goes round the track, even though he keeps signalling to his pits that he's right to come in. Behind him, Rod Gray really getting into the groove now on the Neville Hiscock Suzuki 1100, entered by Action Suzuki. And that's lying in fourth position, one lap down, and wants to get through to get itself back onto the same lap as third place. Second position, bike 5, and there's third position there, bike 2. So second position, Peter Byers.
And fourth position, bike 1, but it's a lap in arrears.
And now he's through, so he's now on the same lap as Wayne Clark, but yet, of course, to catch Peter Byers and bike 7, Alan Blanco, Jeff French in the lead. Do we expect it this time? Yes, we do. Here he comes. Bike 2, Wayne Clark, on the Mentor motorcycles, Honda 1100, to hand over to international Australian rider Wayne Gardner. Gardner to take his second stint on the bike. Riding on Pirelli tyres, which is why you see the people in Pirelli jackets running down to check the condition of the rear tyre. Gardner moves in to assist with the fuel change. Out comes the tyre. And in goes a new one. Less than 10 seconds gone now.
New Pirelli Phantom.
15 seconds. Come on, get that axle in.
Wheel
Chain
up first, though.
5 seconds. Clark off the bike, Gardner onto it. Billy Hill, team owner, doing the fuel change himself. 40 seconds, slower than others. Not using air wrenches, as you can see. Now they've got to get a split pin into that jet, so that's going to take some time. There it goes. 52 seconds the stop, not good enough. But now we'll see the magic of Wayne Gardner as he tries to get this bike back into major contention.
In the strict way that Chris Peckham's run this race in past years, that split pin they put in the axle is not a standard component. That's a spring-loaded split pin, and normally they have a normal one that has to be operated by pliers.
I was speaking to Peckham earlier this week, and while I didn't check that exact fact, I know that he's allowing split pins. What sort of split pin is another
Well, I've
question.
seen them being used to keep sump fillers wired rather than wire, keep them closed, and it may be allowed, but in past years he's been awfully strict on things even like gluing washers together to make them easy to handle.
And in the pits is Dennis Neal.
Wayne, rider of bike number 2. You're in for a tyre change then. It was a little bit slow, 52 seconds we got it at. What was the main problem?
We had trouble getting the pin in, the split pin in. The hole, just the line up, just didn't line up, the nut didn't line up.
How was the bike handling out there?
It's wobbling a bit. The tyres hopeless. It's shot. But everything seems to be going well.
So hopefully stick Wayne on it now with a fresh tyre and really go for it.
Yeah.
Try and make up the difference.
Yeah. Wayne should probably be able to go 2 seconds quicker than I can.
How are you finding the traffic?
Not too bad. It's pretty good. No, it's not too bad out there. I don't know how many bikes are in the race still, but it's pretty good.
And the race was on for third position between bike 3, Andrew Johnson on the Honda 1100, and bike 1, Rod Gray, co-riding with Neville Hiscock on the Suzuki 1100. There's number 3, that's Johnson, and behind him is bike 1, Rod Gray. Now Gray had been holding third position, and Johnson again with this massive charge of his, as we saw earlier in the race, really starting to move through the field. They're both one lap down on the 2 race leaders, Jeff French in the lead from the John Pace Pete Byers Honda 1100. So Johnson's really now having to move to get back into the lead, or back onto the same lap as the leader. And right behind Andrew Johnson, we see the 5th place in the 750cc class. That's the Richard Schooler, Michael Dowson Yamaha 750, with Schooler at the helm at this stage. Schooler, a New Zealand rider who's been out here for a number of years now and has done very, very well in small class racing and small production class racing, whose big ambition next year is to find sponsorship to ride a big 1100cc production bike, as he's rounded up by Rob Phillips and Mick Cole on the big 1100 Suzuki, and that's probably why Schooler wants it. Co-riding with him is Michael Dowson, all the way from Western Australia, who currently is leading the Australian 350cc Grand Prix Championships and is a rider of quite some ability, only 22 years of age, travels everywhere with his mum and dad, who faithfully drive their utility, or rather their van, across the Nullarbor Plain several times a year to see young Michael race in the eastern states, and they sleep in the back of the van as well. So a real family effort, and going well in 4th position in class.
Here's Andrew Johnson chasing, forcing bike number 3, he's on 3, bike number 5, the John Pace Honda that he shares with Pete Byers, and the Victorian is in a big hurry. And I thought that he'd made it there as he surges in also with Malcolm Best and Neary on bike 39. But there's only one way this dice is going to be resolved in the mind of Andrew Johnson on 3, and that is that he's going to unlap himself on John Pace, who's in 2nd place and was a lap ahead. He's now about 57 seconds in front, 58. And Johnson's trying to pull that back. He's got 1 hour and 3/4 to do it. 1 hour and 3/4. There's plenty of time, actually, for this flying Victorian and his co-rider Pretty to get back onto even terms, with bike 5 in 2nd place and bike 7, the race leader, Jeff French and Alan Blanco for the Mattich team. All of them Hondas.
Lying 6th in the 750cc class is the only lady competitor in the event, Jenny Coates. Right here, she's 14th outright. Steering way ahead of Jenny there. Pushes the big Kawasaki, or the 750cc Kawasaki around the track. Co-riding with her is her boyfriend, 21-year-old Leon Faber, who's done most of the mechanical work on this bike. But Jenny has really been one of the most improved riders of the 1982 production bike series. She started the year perhaps 2 seconds a lap down on lap times to Leon Faber, but she's come right up into contention, and right now is doing an excellent job as she follows bike 31, Charlie Wilkie, the New Zealand rider on a Honda 550, to hold 14th outright. Jenny's an intensive care sister at Westmead Hospital, and coincidentally, she's looking after Gary Leggett, the car racing driver who was injured during practice for the James Hardy 1000 2 weeks ago. She certainly knows quite a bit about looking after people in injured situations, although thankfully she's never ever been seriously injured herself. She and Leon took first in the 750cc production class in the 1980 Coke 800, and they've been up there and one of the most enthusiastic members of the production bike series ever since.
Bike 27 is running 7th in the 750 class, 16th outright. Rod Brown and Terry Paviel on a Yamaha 750, but they've had their troubles because they qualified 3rd fastest of the class and 18th overall. And Rod Brown partnered Len Willing to victory in the, or 2nd place, sorry, in the Yamaha 750 race earlier this year. Terry Paviel is one of the front runners in the 250cc production race class on water-cooled Yamahas. Both good operators, but slipped out of contention. But you can see from the way they're riding, hard riders, smooth. That's Brown riding at the moment.
Recording on 2 tapes. The backup as well as the main.
Troy was back in 2nd place in the class.
Really enjoying. I think this is the first talking to picture down there. This is really the first.
The race leader is on bike number 7, Jeff French and Alan Blanco. And attacking, looking on the left side, going down the left side and unlapping himself is the charging Victorian Andrew Johnson. And watch him thread his way through the traffic in front. 3 abreast through that right-hand kink, which is quite a substantial corner at the speed they're going. And look at the distance he's pulling out on the race leader. He's got 1 hour and 27 minutes to pull back a lap and to be actually arguing over the lead itself. He's in 3rd place at the moment. And we've got a pit stop still to come, of course, for all of those bikes. All of them Hondas. All of them capable of running about 1.5 hours on a tank. A little bit longer for this one, which was the longest out of all the leading Hondas. But there'll be a stop before the end for him. So getting that stop right will be critical, but it's not a particularly tricky one, just a churn of fuel. The man he's immediately after now is bike number 5 in 2nd place, John Pace and the Queenslander Byers. Byers riding that bike at the moment. That gap
oh geez, good. Into the pits, the race leader, bike 7. Alan Blanco getting on the bike. Jeff French getting off it. Watches on. No tyre changes this time. This has got to be a quick one. And it's moving in just over 10 seconds. What an incredible pit stop.
But the new race leader is bike 5. He's gone through. So that was enough to let Pete Byers into the lead. This bike now is 2nd. And the gap back to Johnson in 3rd, already charging faster than the original rider on it, Jeff French, will now be in the vicinity of 20 seconds. We'll get a measure on it in just a moment. It's going to take Blanco, tall boy from Sydney, a few laps to settle into the saddle and get onto the really quick pace.
1 hour 24 minutes remaining, and Alan Blanco has now had his final pit stop, so the Mattich team hopes now rest entirely with him. That's the gap between 3rd and 4th positions. Wayne Gardner is really moving his bike, and Andrew Johnson may not have an answer for it. Both of them only 18 seconds behind Alan Blanco in 2nd place, who in turn is only 14.82 seconds behind the race leader, John Pace and Pete Byers. 17 seconds is the gap now back to 2nd place. And these two riders both carving back 2nd place, but look at Gardner go and Johnson. Gardner is eyeing after a season in Europe, and is he riding this bike well? Andrew Johnson is probably our best local touring bike rider, and just look at Wayne Gardner, the young boy from Wollongong, haul him in. Both on equally matched machines. 3rd gear through this section of track, then hard on the stoppers. And Gardner just a bit under brakes there. Yes, he's doing it. Both of these riders do need a final pit stop. The only man in the top 4, and only 4 on 1 lap, not to need a pit stop is Alan Blanco in 2nd position. Gardner's lap time at this stage of the race, 57.37. now the question remains, will these two become... And there it goes, Wayne Gardner straight through him. Under brakes. Looks behind, can't find him anywhere. And that just came so unexpectedly. Andrew Johnson, I think, would be as amazed as anyone else that Wayne Gardner managed to round him up so easily. 15.98 seconds now, the gap back to third place from second, Alan Blanco. And now with the clear track in front of him, I was concerned then that Wayne Gardner might be tied up in a dice with Andrew Johnson and the two of them would slow themselves down and not be able to catch up with second place. But Gardner now in the lead on Johnson, and he's got nothing now to stop him getting up onto Alan Blanco. Gardner took his, or regained the bike at the 4 hours and 5 minute mark, so he'll need his pit stop within perhaps only a half to a quarter of an hour from the finish of the race, which means that he may well elect to stay on the bike for the final stages. Andrew Johnson due to give his bike over, not that far off it either towards the end of the race, and whether he'll hand over to Greg Pretty still remains to be seen. Never has there been a closer Castrol 6 hour or a faster Castrol 6 hour than right now. At lap 300, 4 hours and 56 minutes gone in the race. Bike 5, Pete Byers and John Pace lead by just 17.39 seconds from bike 7, this bike ridden by Alan Blanco. He, however, is losing a lot of ground. He's down to only 5.48 seconds ahead of bike 2, Wayne Gardner on another Honda 1100, and then in fourth position, Andrew Johnson on the other Honda, the only people on 300 laps. Then comes bike 1, that's the Neville Hiscock Rod Gray Suzuki 1100, followed by bike 14, that's the Rob Phillips Mike Cole Suzuki 1100. But the big question now is, can bike 7, ridden by Alan Blanco, which is the only bike of the leaders to have had its final pit stop, hold out this determined challenge that's being thrown out by Wayne Gardner? Let's go to the pits and Dennis Neal.
Talking to Chris Mattich, the team manager of bike number 7, Jeffrey French. Who's on board the bike at the moment? Alan Blanco's on the bike. We believe bike 2 and bike 3 are catching you close to within 5 seconds. They're gaining by around about a second a lap.
That's right, they're just about on our tail now, but both of them have to make pit stops.
Your bike doesn't have to stop again?
We don't have to stop again.
Right,
so it's going to be close. The race has still got an hour to go, but that's the way we want it to be at the moment.
Is your bike on a fresh tyre at this stage?
No, the tyre was put on at the first stop, so it's done about 3.5 hours now, and it'll be right for the rest of the race.
Okay, so it should be a very, very close finish.
That's right. Well, Jeff got off the bike only about 15 minutes ago. Said that the bike's capable of 56s if we have to. Brakes are good, tyres are good, everything's good, so we're pretty cool at the moment.
Okay, fine. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Dennis.
Race leader. There's bike 5, the race leader in the pits. John Pace back on the bike now, and he's gone. Took a very quick pit stop, had to bump start the bike as you could see there, but that was a particularly quick pit stop for John Pace, and now we've got the rocket out on the bike. John Pace has dropped to 4th position with that pit stop, which is about what we'd expect to have happen, but the real thing that we've now got to work out is how far behind the Alan Blanco Team Matic Honda he is. Because these two bikes now, Blanco and bike 5, have both completed their last pit stop, so these are the two rockets going to the finish. And Pace is the man who really wants to win the Castrol 6 hour. We yet await to see Andrew Johnson take his final pit stop and also to see Wayne Gardner take his.
And with a new race lead of Jeff French, Alan Blanco, second place, Gardner charging on the gap. And the gap first to second is now down to 1.3 seconds. Sorry, 2.9 seconds between the lead bike now, number 7, Jeff French, Alan Blanco actually riding bike 7, and the rider on bike 2 in second place, Wayne Gardner. There's the race leader.
He'll be trying everything he knows to regain.
And the blue white leathers you saw just behind were second place chasing him.
Oh! Oh, that was Wayne Gardner. Oh, what an incredible save from Gardner.
That's about a 170 kilometre an hour corner, that right-hander. Fourth gear. Ferociously fast part of the track. This is Blanco, the leader.
And
Let's
here
have a
comes
look at
Gardner. Let's see it go. There he goes. He's so sideways and wrestles the bike. Have you ever seen a save like it?
Well, how did he stay on it? And you can't stay on it, is what you'd have said. To have a bike that sideways, he was doing 170 kilometres an hour. Just think about it.
It hasn't stopped Gardner. He's still going for it. Here is the race for the lead in the Castrol 6 hour at the 5 hour and 2 minute mark. In the lead, Alan Blanco, bike 7, right behind him. Wayne Gardner. Gardner still to have one final pit stop, so he must get through Blanco and open himself a buffer to be able to take that pit stop. There he goes. New leader, Wayne Gardner, into the lead. And Blanco had no answer to that. He's riding to team orders. He knows that there's a pit stop on Wayne Gardner, but I just wonder, with the immense riding ability of Wayne Gardner and indeed of the other riders contesting outright at this stage, just how slowly Alan Blanco can afford to win by.
Yes, he's getting some enormous competition from riders who are quicker and far more experienced than he, and whether he can do the pace and whether he can concentrate hard enough and be error-free will remain to be seen. You can see the sort of problems that Gardner can get himself out of. Quite incredible. On that lap when he had that horrific slide, he lost only 0.4 of a second on the lap in the gap between himself and Blanco, and just pressed on, and a lap and a half later took him. Third and fourth place, this is the struggle. Bike 3, Andrew Johnson being reined in consistently from 5 seconds 7 laps ago, and there goes John Pace, Pete Byers, bike number 5. They are now in third. Boy, what a fascinating, frantic and fast 13th Castrol 6 hour it's been. And one remarkably free from falls and almost completely free of any injury other than a few bruises and grazes.
After opening a buffer gap of more than 14 seconds on Alan Blanco in second position, Wayne Gardner has got problems. Blanco has started to haul back the lead and is now only 12.51 seconds behind. So Gardner has been indicating to his pits that there may be a problem with his back tyre. Yes, there he goes again. He wants a back tyre on the bike by the looks of it, but if he gets the back tyre, the time he spends in the pits getting it will well cost him the lead in the Castrol 6 hour. Back in third position, bike 5, John Pace is hauling in Blanco. He's only 8.9 seconds behind at this stage. And then in fourth position, 31 seconds back, is Greg Pretty. But this is the man with problems, Wayne Gardner, who's forced the pace so hard, now may pay the penalty by needing a back tyre to be able to complete the race, or at least to be able to complete it competitively.
He's lost his advantage of 14 seconds down to 12.7. In the meantime, third place is hauling the gap back, and that is, of course, Pace and Byers. They're hauling their gap back to 7.8 seconds from 9.5.
Here comes Gardner.
4 laps to go, but this is the stop.
And this is the stop that could win or lose the Castrol 6 hour motorcycle race for Wayne Gardner and Wayne Clark.
He might just be worried when he's pointing at his watch that he's got riding time left, but he's allowed to do 3 consecutive hours and not more than 4 in total. So he stays in the thing. They check the tread depth of the tyre. It's fuel only. Rider stays on. And they're away.
11.5 seconds to stop. And he's dropped back to third position with that stop. So he's still ahead of Greg Pretty on the road. And there's 9.11 seconds separating second to third position. So he's now 9.11 seconds behind John Pace, who's now in second position, and Pace himself is now starting to close the gap on Alan Blanco in the lead. All the pit stops are over now, and it's now the sprint to the finish of the Castrol 6 Hour, 1982.
You're about to witness the finish of one of the most exciting, unbelievable motor races you've ever seen. The gap first to third after 5 hours and 41 minutes of motorcycle racing is 4.3 seconds, and third is catching second and he's catching first. The gap between first and second, the race leader, on number 7, Alan Blanco, is 1.4 seconds, and the gap back from second place John Pace on 5 to third place Wayne Gardner, charging like a dervish on number 2, is 1.5 seconds. The gap is 2.9 seconds, and what's likely to happen is that second will become first, and then third at the moment will catch him and become first. So we're likely to see several changes of place before the end of this race. Quite incredible, but that is the race leader at the moment.
Sitting in front of his television in Queensland is an old man called John French. His son Jeff French has done a lot to put this bike into first position, and at this particular stage John French, racing driver, knows all about tactics, and he'll just be watching. At bike 5, John Pace now starting to close there in the picture together. That's the race for the lead in the Castrol 6 Hour. John Pace on bike 5 Honda versus Alan Blanco on bike 7 Honda.
It's
as they go up into the loop.
0.62 and it's 1.4 back to third place, a total of 2.9. Pace, highly talented, very experienced. Alan Blanco, not as quick, not as experienced, but with all the pressure in the world on him at the moment, and 19 minutes to go. And Gardner's in the back of that picture as well, the white and blue Mentor leathers.
Alan Blanco with more pressure on him than he's ever had in his racing career. And there goes bike 5. John Pace takes over the lead. Two back is Wayne Gardner on bike 2. In between them is bike 10.
So in that cluster of traffic, you've got first, second and third place on the same lap in this remarkable 13th Castrol 6 Hour.
Less than a second separates.
0.95 of a second separate the first 3 placings.
What an incredible race meeting. John Pace.
Current race leader, Wayne Gardner. Wollongong born, short circuit rider, was where he gained his experience and learnt to feel happy with the bike sliding and moving around. And a lovely Honda contract in England last year and this, and going back next year, contract still to be signed. But what a performance he's put in. They were in 15th place when they called Wayne Clark, his co-rider, in to change a rear tyre which they'd guessed wrongly on, fell to about 25th and have fought their way forward from there.
Gardner still in third position, breathing down the tailpipes now of Alan Blanco. Bike 11, Robert Scotty and Mick Damon on a Suzuki 1100 in between the dice, but there's Wayne Gardner.
14 Phyllis Cole are in there too, but of no account, as they are 3 laps down and in 6th place. Nothing wrong with 6th, but 3 laps is a bit of a gap.
Traffic slowing Gardner, and Gardner now desperately needs every second he can get on the track to catch up to this man, John Pace, because this is the leader. That's Alan Blanco through on the inside there, bike 7.
And as Pace has hit the lead, he's pulled the gap out between himself and Gardner to 1.37 seconds. That's 4/10 of a second over what he had a couple of laps ago. So in other words, he's responding to being the new race leader. Can Gardner catch him? These are the two men that a couple of years ago in torrential rain here at Amaroo staged a battle for more than an hour in the rain, and a sensational bit of riding it was between the two of them too. And here comes second place. Wayne Gardner wants Blanco, Blanco on 7, Gardner on 2. And then Gardner has pulled back 1.14 second lies between him and the leader, and he's second.
Gardner second.
Gardner's second, now Pace, now bike 5. all of them Hondas, all of them on Pirelli tyres, the highest placed Dunlop tyred bike in 4th place at the moment, bike number 3, Andrew Johnson and Greg Pretty.
Gardner yet to pick up 6th position. Rider Rob Phillis and Mick Cole on bike 14. Be lapping them for the 4th time. And he's done it.
And it's 14.5 minutes to go. 14 minutes.
Bike 5 the leader, bike 2 in 2nd position. Together on the road, that's the gap between them.
For Blanco, the incredible thing was that Blanco had the lead with the 2 men that are now 1st and 2nd needing a pit stop. And they've done it, and they've caught him. 1.17, Pace again replying, pulling out just a couple of hundredths, but in other words, keeping the position steady. And Gardner and Pace, 2 incredibly talented riders, giving it everything. And at the moment, this man holding steady. Gardner bested him in their clash in the rain a couple of years ago, where Pace, he both headed him, and also at one stage Pace ran wide and off the track and lost a bit of ground.
Past the Terry H. Ducati 600. Gardner to pick him up the hill, and Gardner signalling to his pits. I reckon that Gardner has a rear tyre problem. I really do. He's had it before the last pit stop. 1.04 seconds the gap.
Might have a problem, but there's only one man going to solve the problem for Wayne Gardner on bike 2, and that's the man in the saddle. Because there's no way he's leaving this racetrack at the moment, either before race end or unless the bike gets away from him. He's staying out there.
You have never seen a Honda go through that corner as quickly before as Wayne Gardner on that lap. Did you see him slide? Pace grabbing in every inch of track he can, getting through lap riders, trying to put them between him and Wayne Gardner. But nothing works. Gardner takes the 2 before the next corner.
The gap now, 1 to 2, is 0.65 of a second. They have covered 254 laps. They have been racing for 5 hours, 48 minutes and 30 seconds. 11.5 minutes to go. Incredible tension, a new race record distance coming up, and an argument yet to be resolved. But Gardner, the international...
Neil Robinson on a Kawasaki 750 interrupts the argument for a moment and still doesn't get over.
Oh, Gardner will push him out of the way if he has to. They'd be prepared at this stage to bump bikes from the side once he's in position on the inside running for a corner.
John Allen, Suzuki 750 now in the way. He'll move out pretty quickly.
I've seen a lot of motor races since I started following it in 1958, and I don't think I've ever seen a better one. There's one thing, the only thing that's certain as they lap at 57.5 seconds, the only thing that is absolutely certain in all this is that the crowd and the pit crews are going to applaud these people, scream, clap, and give them a standing ovation for some brilliant motor racing.
Oh, has he gone in too deep?
Pace holds on.
Oh, I thought Pace was gone there. I thought he responded to the Gardner challenge and just went in too fast.
And this could be the spot. Oh, Pace seemed to get out badly there, but he's hung on to it.
The pit's beside themselves.
I reckon there are, however many other bikes are out there at the moment, are being ignored by every pit crew in the area. They're all watching this dice.
This time under brakes, no.
The lap times have come from 57.5 to 56.89. They're lapping at under 57 seconds. At the end of the race, tired riders, worn tyres.
Now look at this on the outside.
Hot brakes.
for the brakes, and
he's
this
hit
is
the
it.
lead. Gardner holds it. Gardner into the lead. And Pace tries to come back on him, but hasn't got it. Wayne Gardner, 5 hours, 50 minutes and 50 seconds of racing, and Pace has him again. And Gardner again. Gardner's in the lead again.
And that's Bob Toomey, the leader of the 750 class, right in front on the Suzuki. And he's got his own race to race, of course, and he's going to have to get out of the way of these two racing for the lead.
You can't believe it. And Gardner.
Toomey moves aside.
I think now has done enough. And I think Pace has got no answer. And is Wayne Gardner pretty good or not?
Did he pay for his airfare for the Mentor Motorcycles team?
Remember what he did at that spot a while ago. Terrified himself witless and dropped 4/10 of a second.
Time now to look behind him, just see what the opposition's doing. 357 laps gone, 8 minutes remaining in the Castrol 6 hour. And they're still together on the road with traffic now stopping Wayne Gardner, which will give John Pace the chance to close up.
So it's going to add about 5 laps to the previous race record set by Chivers and Alan Hales. And that's it. That's the break. Unbelievable. Pace will never get that back now. With 3 bikes between the two of them, it's over. But boy, the determination, the skill, the tenacity of Wayne Gardner that let him keep coming forward, and then almost in jubilation there to look back and say, come on, come on. But really, what he did, look at the bike move around there, the way he stuck to it, he hung on. That's the mark of a professional competitor. Boy, oh boy.
All this from what seemed to be disaster at the start of the race today when Wayne Clark pulled in very early for the Honda after 1 hour and 4 minutes to change the rear tyre, which wasn't working properly, and then put Wayne Gardner on the bike, who performed so well in the wet and now again in the dry late in the afternoon. And is this the mark of a Formula One professional?
The man that backed up Peter Brock's effort in the James Hardy, and we're still lapping at under 57 seconds, a 56.97 there for Wayne Gardner. But John Harvey, third in the Hardy and third by only half a car length to Alan Grice, is here today because he loves motorbike racing and is a great mate of Rob Phillis and works with them in their team, and Harvey reckons it's far more exciting than car racing. I think the action today has proved that. Behind Gardner and Pace, first and second on 2 and 5, is third place. Alan Blanco still holding that on number 7, but behind them the positions have changed.
Yes, Alan Hales, bye-bye.
That's the lap, the race record, incidentally. 360 laps has just come up for Wayne Gardner. So he's established a new race record.
With 5 3/4 minutes remaining. And the nice thing about it is that 4 people have done it, 3 people have done it with him, 4 in all, because there are 4 bikes on the same lap. I thought for a moment that 3 had slipped back from 4th place, but not so. The Illustrated Spectator board shows that, but it's not so. 5th place is still being held 2 laps down by Hiscock and Gray on the 1st place of the Suzukis. Situation, 2.32 seconds, the gap first to second. 13 seconds, the gap to 3rd place. 30 seconds, 30.3. The gap to 4th, and there are just under 5 minutes remaining. Well, this has been a stupendous, heroic ride by Wayne Gardner, and look how relaxed he is on the motorcycle. For all that fight, for all his near disaster, back there at Mazda Corner, the man looks back over the shoulder, he's moving, relaxed, easy on the bike.
less than 4 seconds separate first and second with 5 laps remaining. Possibly 6 for the
Gardner pulling his lead to nearly 3 seconds. And has earned it. Coming back from about 25th place early into the second hour. Coming up to 3 laps in advance of the previous race record, which was an average, of course, of a lap a minute.
Up on John Pace, puts his head back down and gets on to the business of winning the 6-hour race.
What a performance from Gardner. Was held up by the Falklands March in England, got here on Thursday, went straight to bed, had his first look at Emma.